Good afternoon, everybody. This is Eddie Taylor with the United Way. We're here this afternoon with Jordan Larson. Today's podcast title is Health and Aging, Living Well with Jordan Larson from the Active Healing Center. Again, my name is Eddie Taylor. We're here with Jacob Martin, who is our technical support, and Jordan, who's going to join us for a couple of sessions in this podcast series talking about health, aging, nutrition, all kinds of neat stuff from his perspective, which I got to tell you, is a really interesting perspective. I've gotten to know a little bit about it personally. So Jordan, tell us a little bit about yourself as we get started.
Thanks, Eddie. I just wanted to thank you for having me on your podcast. This is really exciting to do with you. So my wife and I started a physical therapy practice over 20 years ago. And, we started because we wanted to, just like everybody in healthcare, help people. And the long and the short of it was that the way that the insurance companies were pushing how we were supposed to be treating patients made us want to create a new way of doing things. And so we went out on our own, and we only see one person at a time, one human at a time, and we wanted to create a peaceful, healing environment for people. So I have the background in treating the stars of Hollywood and professional athletes and all that stuff, but what I'm really passionate about now is helping everyday people in the Santa Maria area that want and vibe with that idea of a healing but specialized and peaceful experience, which helps outcomes and feels good doing it too. So that's what we're about.
That's cool. And I'm not an athlete. Well, I'm not a professional athlete.
Yeah, you are.
We'll put it that way.
Okay.
Nobody's paid me for my stuff
Okay.
yet. And I'm not a Hollywood star, but my daughter worked in Hollywood, and I stayed in a Holiday Inn Express once, so maybe I qualify. You know how that ad goes. But I am a client. I want everybody to understand that. So I've got a perspective that I can bring to this conversation that is quite different for me. I've had enough experiences in physical training and physical therapy and physical fitness that I have an understanding of what I need to do.
Yeah.
And I also have an understanding that I don't know what I need to do, and I need professional advice from time to time. So,
Yeah.
Jordan offers a wealth of knowledge that's going to help us as we discussed. His Active Healing Center, I really like the name because it's a model of recovery and healthy living that you guys represent. So tell us a little bit more about that, and then we're going to break into a segment about what physical therapy is, what people think it is, what it really is.
Yeah. Well, would it be okay? Maybe let's just start with what people think physical therapy is, if that's okay.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's just get this one out of the way, because for me, I have to admit, physical therapy as a profession, has done a terrible, terrible job of marketing what we do and what we can do. And sometimes even a terrible job of demonstrating what it is we do. And again, that is not because the physical therapists aren't good. It's because the business models aren't good. And that's been pushed by the insurance companies with reducing pay. And so what people think physical therapy is often, I go to a gym, I pull on some machines. I'm not sure of what I'm doing. I may be alone. I may be supervised. I will have a physical therapist with me probably for some of the time, but maybe not very much, maybe 10 minutes, maybe less, sometimes more. But there's a certain gym-like quality to that. And the experience can feel somewhat cold. So, that's what people can think. Maybe they rub on my knee a little bit. I'll probably do a bunch of exercises that I'm not really sure what they're doing. There will be 127 of them, and there's not a lot of certainty, and so sometimes people actually stop their therapy early because they're not quite getting the desired outcome, and they're not clear on what's happening. And so that kind of rolls back into my purpose for being here, which is that there are a lot of people on the sidelines. Like, if I can get one thing out of this podcast, I think it's that there are so many things that physical therapists can help with if you have the time to spend with them, or rather, if they have the time to spend with you. And that's one of the lacking things.
Let's dive into that, because that's what I experienced. And if you don't mind, if it's okay with you.
Oh, me, it's my favorite subject.
I'm going to mention, the fact that when I came in, okay, so here I walk in, not my first time in physical therapy. I walk into this shop and it doesn't look right. You're thinking they got small rooms over there. Where's all the equipment, man? I'm looking around the room and I'm thinking, well, this isn't going to work. I had an interview with a guy and he really went deep into, what I was doing. By the way, I was recovering from full knee replacement surgery, right?
Yeah.
So I knew it was a big deal.
Yeah.
And to me, a big deal meant I better have a whole lot of equipment. And so I walked away and I told my wife, I don't think this is going to work, but I have a follow-up appointment, so we'll give it a shot. Oh, man, am I glad I went back.
Yeah.
And here's something else I learned. It doesn't take all of that equipment and everything and the process that they have, but it took somebody who was focused on what my specific needs were. And I learned that it's not necessarily true that at the end of physical therapy, you walk in okay and you walk out in pain, because I'm not. When I come in, we're doing the right things. I'm getting the right treatment and I'm walking out. And people were saying, sure are walking good, Ed.
Yeah.
So thank you for that, Jordan.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what it really is. What is physical therapy really from your perspective? And I would just say that to me, what you're explaining is this is like a disruptor. And in the 21st century, we've got a whole lot of business models out there that are disrupting the status quo.
Yeah.
And so we've got this idea with physical therapy that perhaps is being disrupted.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
I love that. And I want to give a lot of credit to my wife, Rachel, because that term disruptor, like that fits her to a T. So she started our company actually 20 plus years ago. And so that idea of disrupting the standard generic way of doing things is really important to us. So what I think, but to answer your question, what I think physical therapy is, the main thing that we do, physical therapists are just so smart. All of them. They're full of a wealth of knowledge, and they have such deep training in understanding the human body and how it moves. And so what we really are is corrective movement specialists. And what that means is that we understand the do's and don'ts of what is going on with the individual in front of us. So if we have enough time and interest and curiosity and connection with that person, then we can really hone down on the exact tissue or tissues, movement patterns, and identify what actually needs to get done. And you can solve 80% of most things just by knowing what to do. And yes, sometimes that's exercise or it's manual techniques, gentle massage, things like that. And then what not to do so that we're not screwing it up. And every body part is different and every person is different. And everybody's goals and age and desires and history and diagnoses and medical conditions are different. And so we need to take that into account. And we can if we have enough time to do that. So that in and itself, that corrective movement specialist. And so say you're getting physical therapy at another place, and I'm not trying to throw them under the bus. There's just different business models. But say you're feeling like you're not getting enough time. If you know that physical therapists have all this knowledge, but they're not demonstrating that to you, get curious yourself about what's going on with you. Ask them some questions about, well, what is the root thing of the problem with me and my body and my situation? What should I be focusing on? What's the main stuff that I should stay away from? What's the main thing that you're doing that's going to help me so that you can understand it for yourself? And so even if you might have some limited time, you can still use that knowledge and collaborate with them as best you can, even if you don't have that time.
I think that's the thing that I noticed in your model is that, the time that I spent, and I got to spend almost all of my time with one professional.
Yeah.
That was so different to me.
Yeah.
And I got a little attached because if she wasn't going to be
right.
there, I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Do I really want to come?
That's
and
right.
what I found out was that when I went to see someone else, another professional in the shop, they were just as well tuned to my needs as my regular person was. And then, by the way, I got to work with the boss too, which was okay. I mean, he kind of knew what he was talking about. And actually, I think in that session, Jordan, I was challenged by the questions that you were asking me, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is my direction? What are my goals? I knew what they were.
Yeah.
And I'll wrap this session up by saying, again, it's been a personal experience. We're going to come back and talk to Jordan some more about a couple of different things. We're going to touch on the health related, how does nutrition tie into this? We're going to talk about what about the pocketbook, right? I mean, the expenses that are involved because, here we live in an area, Jordan, where we have a lot of people who are on fixed incomes. Yep. We have a lot of people who are low income wage earners, and they have needs too, right? So how do we help them understand that physical therapy or active healing can be a benefit to their lifestyle? And how can we help them look at how they can afford to do it when it's needed instead of trying to maintain their body in pain?
That sounds great. Do you mind if I say one thing on that?
Please do.
So we do see a lot of people through insurance. A lot of people come to us with Medicare and other insurances. And then we're also having a growing number of people pay us privately for the sessions because they see the value of what we do. And that's required. If I'm going to pay you money, I need to get value for my money and understand that this is worth it to me. But we can't see everybody. Not everybody can afford that. And so one of the things that we do offer is a free, we call it a discovery visit. And that's open to anybody who is in the right situation. And it's a 30-minute free in-person consultation. And we call it a discovery visit so that one can discover what's wrong, what the root of the issue is, discover what needs to be done, and discover by whom. And a lot of times that's by us, but not always. So that is something, and we can put the link. I have a direct link in the show notes for that. And all it takes is a phone call to set that up, and we'll talk to you, try to understand what's happening with you a little bit, and that is an option.
Well, I'm hoping that when we get together for our next session, we'll follow up on that.
Yeah.
And then go a little bit deeper into some of the other options that are available through the Healing Center. But for now, we're going to wrap this session up. We're going to thank Jordan. We're going to, of course, thank Jacob over here for his technical assistance. And this is the United Way podcast. We'll come up with a brighter name for that for you in sometime in the future, something that you'll remember, or else you'll go, what? Which will cause you to remember it, right? Isn't that why people are just using
get a wacky one? Yeah.
Yeah, they remember. Point is, though, we're here. We're going to be back. And if you want to hear our podcast, you can find us on Spotify, on YouTube, and on many of your favorite podcast channels. Also, be sure to visit Jordan at www.
So it's activeptinc.com. P as in Paul, T as in Tom, INC. activeptinc.com.
Or you can find his podcast at the United Way website, unitedwaylife.org. Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you, Eddie.